This album is the album of themes, I would say. There's issues that are very important now, like English identity, Brexit, Donald Trump, the refugee crisis, Grenfell, homelessness. And then there's universal issues like drink, drugs, depression, and Christmas. The album is called The Path Into Blue. It's the perfect time to release this album because 2019 is kind of a scary time to be alive. I've always loved albums. I know that in the age of Spotify, it's a dying thing, an album, but I think as an artist, it's your kind of like marker in the sand. Like you have to do an album to show where you were at.
Generation left behind. Buy one, get one free. More for you and more for me.
I just make records and put it out there, and if people dig it, great, you know. But it's much more about the creating rather than all the other stuff. I play hundreds, 150 shows a year, mainly in Europe. Toured Australia, and I record in America. The songs always come from meeting people. They always come from life experiences. The people I meet on the road are some of the most beautiful people I've ever met. People who look after you, people who take you in, and people who come to shows, people who let you stay with them and whatnot. And I love that part of being a musician. Being on the road is just a home to me. If I couldn't tour, I couldn't really function. The album was recorded in Austin, Texas, in a studio called Congress House Studio. This is my 5th album in Austin with a guy called Mark Hallman. Mark captures this really live sound, but it's also got this warmth. Unbelievably talented guy. Music from the state of Texas is a real big driving force, actually. It's become probably my favorite place for music. From the country troubadours of Townes Van Zandt to Willie Nelson to Steve Earle to the Texas blues of Lightning Hopkins and Stevie Ray Vaughan. And then there's all these other little influences like the Mexican music, there's great indie bands in Austin. And it's just this hotbed for creativity. When you sit in a studio and you bring in other musicians, it's just like the best thing for me. You know, when we've got these amazing craftsmen and women coming in and just doing their thing over your songs, it's magical.
But we are still full of jism, thanks to Facebook algorithms. So write me a jingle with 1,000,000 hooks. What's at me, Mr. Shakespeare, ain't no time.
This Is England is the opening track of the album, and it's a spoken word piece. The song really is about what it feels to be English in 2019. I love England, I love the people. People are great. And I love the cultural tradition of England, from Shakespeare to the Beatles. I love the political radicalism of England, from the suffragettes to the miners' strike, the different diversity of England. But I'm sad to say, I think in the last few years, it's become a very fractured country and a very divided country.
Look at the deals, unlimited text. Hands free and more minutes to get. Lots of noise, but nothing to say. Looking for magic, but found decay. Celebrities on ice or in the ring. Be on such a journey, just don't let them sing.
There's a lot in This Is England about the media. There's a lot in This Is England about mobile phones. One of the final lines is, "What's at me, Mr. Shakespeare? Ain't got no time for books." Because it's like, we're lost in this kind of little screen.
Brexit news and Brexit blues. Find a despot to sell our fish and chips to. We play hard to
I think it's an important song. I think it's an important message, and I think it's something I had to say now because it's very much of the time. Backing singer, a girl called Stephanie Dowlong.
as we Morris dance to Brexit.
She's the most amazing singer out of Texas. She sings on This Is England. And my instruction to her on that was kind of like the Pink Floyd Great Gig in the Sky. Just basically go crazy and just riff and riff. Lampedusa is an island off Italy, which is one of the main entry points for refugees. And thousands of refugees have died making trips around the world over the last few years. You very rarely hear about why refugees are leaving, whether it's to flee a war, to flee persecution, or just hope of a better life, or all three. Personally, I don't believe in borders. Personally, I think it should be one world, to quote John Martin, the singer. And I think that we won't talk about millionaires who become billionaires, who build empty houses in London and leave them empty and don't pay any tax. But when it comes to a family who are, who've had their house bombed in Syria or something, we're told not to care, and we're told they're a threat.
Refugees dying on the sea. What's the difference between you and me?
Third song is Grenfell. The tragedy of Grenfell is a real illustration of where England is at.
Only truth that you own is fake.
Holland Park, Notting Hill, is some of the wealthiest people, some of the wealthiest property in the world. But within that, there's also tower blocks and working class areas like Grenfell, where the tower block is neglected, health and safety is neglected, and it ends in death. Poverty kills people. I went down to Grenfell after it happened with a notebook. I knew I was going to write a song, and I walked around and just wrote down people's names on the wall, trying to make sense of it all. People from different communities, different parts of the world, and the sense of community in West London is incredible. It reminds me a lot of the Hillsborough disaster, insofar as, sad to say, we'll be talking about Grenfell justice in 30 years' time, because I suspect it's going to be that long before people are brought to account. I am torn on Christmas. I'm 50-50. I love seeing people happy. I think that's really good. I like that. It's a good thing, people being happy. And I think families who come together and ain't been together for a while, it's really beautiful. I like the kind of light. Salvation Army brass bands too. I really like that sound. That's the good part of Christmas. The bad part of Christmas is the alienation, the sadness, Cliff Richard, and the loneliness that a lot of people feel. People who feel lonely, feel the loneliest they've ever felt. So this song is about that, and it's got a great brass section. Carole King's old brass section came into this one, and they nailed it with the Salvation Army brass band. I think the political side of this album is really important. I made a very conscious decision this was going to be a political album. I really think artists have a responsibility to take a stand and say things are wrong. It's got to have the freeness of art, it's got to bring people in, but you do also have to show it as it is, I think, to a certain extent. It's hard to write an ambiguous political song. Little Donny, and this song is inspired as an attack, a full-throttled attack on, in my opinion, the most dangerous and evil man in the world, who's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a fascist, and he is racist, sexist, divisive.
Cold in his veins and fascist by his side. 140 characters.
There's a very dangerous tendency, I think, within the liberal media to do two things with Donald Trump. One of them is try to embrace him as a little bit different and a little bit quirky, and he's such a, because he's not, he's a fascist. But the other thing they do is, whilst trying to make Trump normal, they vilify everyone who votes for Donald Trump. And I think it's very dangerous to vilify and paint everyone with the same brush and say, these people are just outright evil. I think there's a core of supporters for Donald Trump who are outright evil, but there's also people who voted for him who are lost. A cold wind blows. A cold wind is blowing actually now, what we do. It's freezing. This song is about homelessness. The song is set in London, which is my hometown. Sad to say, London over the last few years has become very gentrified. The poor get priced out, and the rich, make everything too expensive. The first line of this song is, he was an army man, He served 3 tours in Afghanistan. Then he came home and stayed on the streets of London's Hayes. I think this is really important because I think there's a real focus on the military in England. You know, everyone has to wear a poppy and there's all these things, but actually when it comes down to actually looking after people who were in the military, you'll find a lot of people on the streets who are homeless who were in the military. And that's not talked about in the media. Those people are forgotten about. And I think the important thing is anyone can become homeless. You know, a lot of people are one paycheck away from being on the streets, whether it's young, old, different cultural minorities, different cultural ethnic minorities, whatnot. Anyone can end up on the streets. Take It Down to the Mainstream is an attack on X Factor and mainstream culture. I hate X Factor. I hate Britain's Got Talent. I hate all of those shows with a vengeance. The window for challenging music and music that makes you think or makes you feel uncomfortable, that window is kind of closed. You say Britain's Got Talent. I tell you, Britain really does have a lot of talent. I've travelled the length and the breadth of the countries, and I've seen so many great songwriters and great singers and great musicians and great bands everywhere, from clubs, pubs, festivals, busking on the street. There is so much talent in this country, but it's not on Britain's Got Talent. And if there is talent on that shows, it's ruined because the kids are either destroyed before they've got a chance to do anything, or they're made to sing karaoke pop songs. Tobacco and Whiskey, this is a drinking song. This song's about the good and the bad of drinking. I've always drunk, and I've always drunk too much, and at different times it's been kind of a wrecking ball, to be honest, which is my own thing. For the most part, it's a good thing, I would say. But as I said, there's also the element of drink being a kind of a weapon of mass destruction. and I've done the different times I've done that. And this song's about that. It's about the good and the bad of drinking. We've got to bring out things that we all feel. And drinking is, a big part of society. Tobacco and whiskey in my dream. I've never made any excuses about taking drugs or any pretended I haven't. Number 49. This song is about proactive chemical indulgence, I like to call it. This song is about getting high, and if you want to fly, call on number 49. I have a friend who lives at number 49, and he's got a good door number, number 49. I live at number 5, and it doesn't have the same ring. Yeah, 69 is a different thing. That may be the next album. I'm sure that's been done. Yeah. The Other Side of Hurt. This song, this is quite a complicated song actually, because it's partly about depression, but it's also partly about finding social situations quite difficult to be in. Being a musician it's a very insular life. It's a very traveling troubadour is as well. You're often on your own for long periods of time, and I kind of like that because I'm an only child. But then what happens sometimes is you spend these long periods on your own, and you play a gig, and it's all good, and then you're on your own again. So the song is kind of about that. It's kind of about trying to engage with the world, but it's also about depression. I've always suffered from depression since I was a kid, and as I said, I'm not someone who puts these big personal things online or does a blog or whatever. I've always just written songs about it and tried to deal with it that way. Going to those dark places often can be very creative for me. That's not to say it's a kind of don't try this at home thing, because the dark places are dark, but you get into that space, and often I'm incredibly creative when I'm there. In the Name of God. This song is actually my favourite song on the album. It's about kind of religious extremism. I'm an atheist, but I don't have any problem with people who believe in religion, provided it doesn't infringe on other people's liberty. The reason this song is my favourite song is not so much the message, but the sound of it. It's the kind of epic production on the album. It's got a choir on it, it's got pedal steel, it's got saxophone, it's got backing, Stephanie's doing her backing, beautiful backing bit, and it's got the full band on it. I should say another shout out actually on this record. We've got a pedal steel player called Henry Senior. You think about pedal steel, you're going to go to some of the great places. You're going to go to Nashville, you're going to go to Austin. No, for this pedal steel player, I went to Brixton, where all pedal steel players are from, apparently. Absolutely fantastic musician. On this record, we've got a great saxophone player called Joe Morales. The final day of recording in Austin, we brought in an amazing choir of singers who were all great artists in their own right. We had Mark Hallman, of course. We had Noel Hampton, who's a great singer out of a band called Bell. Sounds really good. Newland Moorfield, beautiful singer. Barbara Nesbitt, another beautiful singer-songwriter. Nikki Randolph, I think another great singer. And I was just sitting there in the studio watching them in the booth, singing over my song, and I was just smiling, thinking, wow, this is a good day. You know, I was just hearing these great singers sprinkle their magic over something that I wrote, and I thought this is a good time.
The songs that I write, they are my soul.
The title track, which is The Path into Blue, the title came from a painting by Paul Klee, great painter. And I love referencing other art forms. There's a poem by a guy called Wallace Stevens, a great modernist poet, which references a painting by Picasso, and I just thought that was really clever. If you're a songwriter and you can reference another painter or another poet, even if it's just a little thing, because it lifts the music outwards and it takes it outwards. And if you start to reference things and say, this is an inspiration for me, it gives a whole load of other people a way into your work. Titles of songs are really important. I think a lot of songwriters, I collect titles of songs, and you can just, once you've got a title of a song, you can frame everything. You can begin to create a foundation for what you want to say. I have a process, I text myself titles. I always worry I'm going to get the wrong number and send some filthy message and get in trouble, you know. But I collect titles, yeah, absolutely, because there's so much you can do with a great song title. It just begins everything. Really excited about this album. I think with every album, I move forward creatively and the songwriting improves, and I think I really want people to hear this album because I'm really proud of it, and I really, feel good about it. I want people to really believe though that it's sincere in what I'm saying, because it is. It's everything, songwriting and music to me. I kind of, I've chosen that path a long time ago. You put everything into it, and it's the best life. For sure, I can't do nothing else, and I don't want to either.